We all think we get recycling. You finish a soda, toss the can in the blue bin, and, well, that's that. But what if I told you that simple act is just the first word in a much, much bigger conversation? Today, we're going to decode the language of recycling because its ultimate goal is way more ambitious than you might think. See, at its core, modern recycling isn't just a mechanical process for dealing with trash. Nope, it's actually a whole philosophy. It's a way of thinking about how we design, create, and use everything in our lives, all with the goal of creating a world with a whole lot less waste. So, what is the grand vision here? What is this entire system really truly trying to achieve? Well, it all boils down to the dream of a perfect circle. And that dream? It has a name: the circular economy. This is the big idea, the North Star. It's a model where, by its very design, waste and pollution are eliminated. Instead of a one-way street from the factory to the landfill, we create a system where materials are constantly circulating, getting reused, and where nature actually gets a chance to regenerate in the process. Now, the absolute ideal, the pinnacle of this circular economy, is what we call a closed loop. Just imagine this. A product is made, it's used, and then its materials are recovered to make the exact same product all over again. No loss in quality. A perfect, self-sustaining circle. That's the target. And this whole philosophy is really driven by a few incredibly powerful aims. First, to eliminate the very concept of waste. Gone. Second, to promote reuse, keeping materials in play for as long as humanly possible. Third, to protect the environment. And finally, to make the switch over to renewable resources for good. Okay, so that's the dream. It's a beautiful dream, right? But how do we actually try to make it happen? Let's follow the journey our so-called waste takes to become a resource again. Let's use aluminum as our example, okay? The journey kicks off with collecting all that scrap, all those cans. From there, it heads to a facility to get sorted, separating the aluminum from everything else. Then, it's shredded into these small, manageable pieces, melted down in a massive furnace, and finally, it's ready for what's called secondary production. That's just a fancy way of saying it's used to create brand new aluminum products from the old ones. That aluminum process, it sounds pretty clean, doesn't it? Almost like that perfect closed loop we were talking about. But, and this is a big but, this is where we slam into the biggest challenge in recycling, the massive gap between that beautiful ideal and our messy reality. That loop, it isn't always so clean. The number one enemy of that perfect circle has a name: contamination. This is what happens when the wrong stuff gets into the recycling bin. We're talking food scraps, the wrong kind of plastic, even recyclable items that just haven't been cleaned. All that mixing just tanks the quality of the good stuff. So what happens when that quality drops? I mean, what's the real consequence of all that contamination in the system? Well, this brings us to a really crucial distinction. In a perfect world, we'd simply reuse things or we'd remanufacture them right back to their original quality, keeping that loop perfectly closed. But the reality, more often than not, is downcycling. This is where contamination forces us to turn materials into something of a lower quality. Think about turning crystal clear plastic bottles into, say, carpet fiber or a park bench. And that perfectly illustrates the problem. Look, downcycling is still a form of recovery. It's 1,000 times better than sending something to a landfill. But it is not a closed loop. The material has lost value, it's lost quality, it can't be used to make the same high-quality product again. The circle is broken, and that material is now on a one-way trip, becoming less and less useful each time. So you might be thinking, if the loop is so often broken, why does any of this still matter so much? To answer that, we have to zoom out and measure the true impact of the entire journey. To really get it, we have to think in terms of a product's entire life cycle. This isn't just about what you do with the empty container. It's about every single stage, from digging the raw materials out of the ground, to the energy used in manufacturing, to you using it, all the way to its final disposal or, hopefully, its recovery. So the real test of any recycling system, the true measure of its success, is its efficiency across that entire life cycle. The goal is simple: use the least amount of energy and the fewest new resources, from the very beginning to the very end. And here's the payoff. This chart says it all. It compares the CO2 emissions from making something from scratch, that's primary production, versus making it from recycled stuff. The difference isn't just big, it is absolutely staggering. Recycling is just vastly more energy efficient. And that massive boost in efficiency,
That is what shrinks our environmental footprint. Every single can we recycle, every piece of paper we recover, it directly adds up to lowering our collective impact on the planet. It really is that simple.
So I want to leave you with one final thought. It's really the central question of the entire circular economy. When we throw something away, where exactly is away? Thinking about that might just change how you see everything you use.